general heavy metal, you'd probably have to say the UK.
The UK. You know what? What I see, I watch your show, and you know, it's a cool show, and I think you're a genius. I think you deserve a lot of credit. I mean, nobody can stump you. The way you hit those 11 albums from Sammy Hagar was unbelievable. Scott and Don, I mean, Jim and Don, which I've done shows with because I'm a comedian myself, are great. I don't know how that trifecta came about, because how does two comedians wind up with a radio host, which is funny. But what I like about your show is that, you know, the stereotype that everybody thinks, well, musicians, they're on drugs, this and that, they're alcoholics, whatever the case may be, they're running wild. But see, when they come on your show, you paint them, I mean, they get a true picture. I mean, that kind of lifestyle does exist in this industry, you got to admit it. But you paint a positive picture. In the end, they see an individual who just wants to play music and who loves music. And you paint a positive picture that metal is not this devil worship sheet that everybody thinks it's about.
Well, to answer both of your questions there, the thing about Don and Jim, it's very easy how they got to be part of the show. They were listeners of my radio show, and we became friends because they were listeners, and they would come up and hang out in the studio with me whenever they were done doing stand-up, and we just became good friends back about 11, 12 years ago. And then when, I had been working for VH1 Classic for years before doing that metal show as a host, and then when the idea for this show came about, it went through a lot of changes and evolutions, and VH1 wanted people with me on the set who were not, necessarily like me, that came from a different background and that would stir the pot a little bit and bust some balls. So I got just the guys, and then I introduced the network, and, away we went. So people have asked that question a lot because we have a great chemistry together, we have a great time together, we're genuinely friends, and we genuinely are all really into the music. And people wonder if that was some sort of executive that put that together somehow. It was not. It was just simply that they were fans of my radio show, we became friends, I introduced them to the network and brought them into it, and away we went. So it's been great. I don't think the show would have, without that sort of chemistry and friendship that we have and true respect for this music that we all share, I don't think we'd still be standing here after all this time. And as far as what goes on the set, listen, again, I've always been somebody that's against and hates the stereotypes with this music.
Right.
So I people always say, oh, you don't look like a metal guy, you don't act like a metal guy. That's a compliment to me. Not that there's anything wrong with looking any way you want, but I never thought, you had to wear leather and studs and.
Right. Is there a certain dress code? You know what I'm saying?
Listen, some of the, my biggest, a guy like Mike Piazza, one of my best friends. I mean, he's a huge metal fan. I mean, right. You would look at Mike and say, oh, the guy looks like a metal fan. So it's all about just being who you are. And when these guys come on the set, I mean, especially in TV, if they've done TV interviews, a lot of them are used to the same cookie cutter questions and setups and stuff, and they don't really sit with somebody who really cares and respects them or their music, right. Really knows it. And when they come to our show, they get that from all three of us because we're all really, really big fans, and I want to give them an opportunity to talk and be handled respectfully. One quick one that comes to mind is, Janie Lane, just before he died, did our show.
Right.
And when I saw his brother, I met his brother after he passed away in Ohio, where Janie was originally from. And he came up to me and came to see me, and he said, listen, I just want to thank you. He said, because, he said, with all the stuff with my brother and hairband, cherry pie guy, all this stuff that I have, that my brother endured and hated, he said, it's so great to know that the last thing he did and the last way anybody saw him was being treated respectfully as a musician on a TV show. He said, so I'm really glad that was the last thing, and one of the last things people remember is seeing him in a setting like that. It really meant a lot.
Well, that's what sets your, I mean, that right there is why your show has lasted. The chemistry is, I mean, you couldn't got a better bunch of guys to do this, and that's why it sets your show apart, And that's why I hope, like I said, I hope it goes on for another 8 seasons. Now, you wrote a book, now, which was a huge success. Is there any plans to write a tell-all book or a follow-up to that? You got something working on as far as book-wise, or?
Yeah, there is. Well, I definitely will do a sequel to this book at some point. There's ton of bands that got left out just for space, and there's also a lot more that I want to do on some bands. So I will definitely do a second book to this. And I've been asked about it already by the publisher. They'd like to do another one because it has done very well. I'm still actually out there selling this one, though. It's amazing the run I'm having with this, because everywhere I go, people still want to get a book signed or buy one, and I appreciate that very much.
I bought it. I was actually going to try and get up to Livingston Mall when you were doing the sign, but I just couldn't do it. I definitely have to have you sign it soon.
Anytime. I mean, I definitely want to do, really want to do a total autobiography. I think that, without sounding...
I could just imagine the stories you must
have. I mean, without sounding egotistical about it, I think that there really is I touch on some of it in the book that's out now, just about how I got my start, both with a record label and then working with, my first radio demo at a pirate radio station. I mean, there's some really interesting stories there. And then going forward, working with these artists and working on the label side and management side, there's a lot people really don't know some of the things I've done. And I just got an advance of Ace Frehley's book, who is an old friend of mine and a big part of my story in the music business. And he had me write a little something for him in his book. Oh, and I started reading that, and it said, I said, it brought back so many memories and so many things as I'm reading his book that I was like, oh, he forgot about that, all right? And Ace admits right in the front of the book, listen, my memory's not that great. So, he'll be the first to tell you that. But as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, man, he forgot to talk about this part of the story and all that. So just the Ace stuff alone, I mean, could go on forever. So I definitely am going to, that's the book I really want to do one of these days, where I really just tell everybody, the real stuff of what's gone on. Not that it's, all negative or there's any dirt. There's probably some stuff that would really surprise people that I endured over the years with being in this business, but a lot of funny stories too. Problem is, when I do that book, I kind of have to be winding down in this business because, you're going to tell some stuff about some people that they're not going to like it too much. But again, goes back to the point of just being honest and being how you see it. I think those are the best books. Sammy Hagar's book is phenomenal because that's exactly what he did. So you got to be ready to do it. You got to be the right time in your career. You got to be in the right mindset, and then go tell your story.
Oh, that's great. Well, I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully your career is not going to wind down anytime soon. Speaking of Van Halen, what are your thoughts on the new album?
I haven't heard it.
Oh, really?
No, I haven't heard it. Have you?
I haven't heard it yet, but I figured you, if anybody, would like it. I actually, not that he's a metal guy, but I actually picked up off of iTunes the Leslie West album. I don't know if you're familiar with Leslie West.
Sure, I have it, but I didn't listen to it yet, but I do have it.
Oh, he does a couple of songs on there. One is Mudflat Mama, where he has Slash on there with him.
Right.
And then there's another song called Nothing's Changed with Zach Wild. Excellent cuts. I definitely got to check those out when you get a chance. But, all right, speaking of Ace Frehley, top 3 Kiss songs and why?
Oh, those things are impossible for me to do.
Yeah.
Impossible for me to do. I can't. When you're dealing with those giant bands like some of the all-time greats, and it's impossible to narrow those things down to 3 songs. I mean.
All right.
Even I can't give you 3 albums because there's so much I like on all those. There's so many. You're talking about 40 years of music.
I know you're a mega Kiss fan. Between Kiss and UFO, I think those are your 2 favorites, right?
Well, Kiss is the band that started it all for me, and that's the band that I was always most well known for. But over time, I was always a huge UFO fan. But over time, I just kind of, became since talking about them so much and listening to their records. As you get older and you listen to these records and see what still holds up and how it moves you. UFO is definitely one of those bands whose music is still incredible to me. It still gives me goosebumps when I listen to it. So, but there's tons of bands I love. But those are 2 that people most come to mind when they think of me.
Well, obviously. And you've been to a ton of concerts and shows. As far as metal-related moments, there's got to be one. I mean, I think you've said it on your show, though. The biggest moment that stands out for you, I would think, I'm going to take a guess, is when you did the eulogy at RJD's funeral. As far as concert-wise and show and metal-related moments, I think that was probably one of the biggest achievements.
Well, Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, as a person, the personal stuff. There's a couple things. I mean, there's on the radio side. I mean, if you're just talking about things that have happened in my career, I mean, there's all kinds of like things along my history that have been really kind of benchmark moments. My first radio gig in New York, my first TV gig, putting out the book. There's a lot of things. The day Axl Rose walks in my studio.
Oh wow!
There's all these parts of in my history, that I have, a lot of stories about. But a couple of things that come to mind on a personal level would be 10 years ago doing the 9/11 event where I reunited Twisted Sister, which was, called New York Steel, which 10th anniversary is coming up.
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, I put together Twisted Sister for the first time in 13 years, and also had Ace Frehley, Anthrax, Overkill, Sebastian Bach, and we did a metal benefit called New York Steel. We raised over $100,000 for police and firefighters, widows and orphans fund.
That's very cool. Very cool.
That's something that I'm very proud of being able to pull off at the time. Just doing one metal show a week in New York, pull those bands together, and get people to come together for a great cause was something I'm really, really proud of. Twisted Sister has continued ever since.
Right.
And and obviously, being asked to basically host a memorial service for Ronnie James Dio was a tremendous honor. And it's funny you bring that up because just last night I had a conversation with Wendy Dio, and they're going to be doing a yearly fundraiser in Ronnie's name for cancer research in Los Angeles.
Oh, I wish it was over here. I would love to help out for that. You have no idea.
Well, there's ways people can help, but the actual event, which is something that you attend and donate money to and for a table and all, is going to be in LA. And the first one's coming up actually in November. And Wendy just last night extended an offer for me she wanted me to MC it.
Oh, wow.
And, she said that, she had mentioned that everyone loves so much how I handled the memorial and that I'm the only guy for the job and Ronnie would love it and all that. So
absolutely.
For me, Ronnie was such a friend and such a great guy, and obviously I was such a fan.
Yeah.
That it's impossible for me to say no to anything that camp asked for, because I would do anything for him or his memory. So I'm just working out the logistics, but I think I'm going to be able to do that. And that was another real nice honor that Wendy asked me to do it. So doing it that day and being a part of that memorial is something that
absolutely
never forget.
I mean, he's definitely missed, and he's definitely irreplaceable. I mean, there's just no two ways about it.
But he's missed, but like I said to Wendy, he'll never be forgotten, because
absolutely not.
His music is still everywhere, and like Wendy was saying to me last night, she's like, listen, it's weird for me because I feel like he's just on a long tour.
Yeah.
But he's out there on the road for the last year or so, it's still kind of hard to believe. And I feel the same way, me being an East Coast guy my whole life, I would go for a long period of time without talking to Ronnie, even though we were friends, just because he was on the road all over the world.
Yeah.
So I feel that kind of the same way between his music and between that. I still just feel like he's just, he's out there doing his thing.
Well, I tell you what, it was funny that you said that, and it was like kind of eerie when I was listening to it. I actually got choked up when you had when you were talking about it on the show, that you went to the monument and you met that fan, and you know what I'm saying. He was a big fan of the show, and he was a big fan of Ronnie's, and it was like, it was kind of like a really cool moment. But I'm like, and you're right. I mean, he's bringing people together even after he's gone.
Yeah, exactly. And that was a very powerful thing out of left field that had happened. And I actually told Wendy that story last night, and she couldn't believe it. So yeah, it was really remarkable, and it was very, 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 very powerful moment for all of us.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I got to take my hat off to you. I love the show. I wish you guys, and you're Eddie, you have a website now. It's eddietrunk.com.
Yeah, my website's eddietrunk.com. My Twitter is @eddietrunk. The website has music news and other stuff beyond just stuff about me on there. And also, I don't really got too much into Facebook. There's a Facebook, but it just mirrors some of the other stuff I do. But the Twitter thing I really did get into because it's really easy to do for me, and it's so easy and quick to get information right in people's hands in seconds. So
then you're doing Sirius. You're still doing the Boneyard.
Yeah, every Monday night, 6 o'clock to 10 p.m. Eastern, 3 to 7 Pacific is a live show. Most weeks live. I've had a lot of conflicts, unfortunately, with my schedule, but that just comes with moving around a little bit. But most of the weeks, including this coming Monday, I'll be back there live. And yeah, that's what makes that show unique, because it's a music show, it's a talk show, it's a call-in show, and it's live, because it's not really a secret. Most of the music channels on satellite radio are not live. So
Right.
I'm actually there taking calls and requests and giving stuff away, and that's a blast, because that's live across America and Canada, so you're getting a sample of the entire country, talking to people and getting different opinions. So I love doing that. And the show on locally here in New York City on Q104 is every Friday night, starting at 11, and that's usually live.
Oh, cool. You're doing it old school. Not many people do that anymore.
No, I do it live. I've been doing it live for 30 years, that show, in different stations and different places. But that, again, live most weeks. If I'm working on the TV show, I'm out somewhere, I have to record it. But whenever I'm home and able to be there live, I am taking calls, taking requests, and doing it that way. And that show is syndicated and also streamed on a lot of places. That's when it's done, when it's sent out that way, it's on a delay and it's recorded live, but it's actually live as it happens on Friday nights at 11 on Q104 or the stream for that station. So, yeah, doing 2 live radio shows a week, it's a lot of fun. To me, it's the way radio should be done whenever it can be done.
Absolutely. And make sure you guys check out Eddie's book, too. It's Eddie Trunk's Essential Hard Rock and Heavy Metal. It's available everywhere, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. Make sure you go to Eddie's website. He has everything you could possibly, everything he's involved in, and a lot of cool stuff, and you can keep up to date what's going on with him. Eddie, I have 2 quick things, and then I'll let you go, because I know you got to, I got to ask you one question. Be honest with me. How bad do you want to hold down Jameson and shave them sideburns off?
You think that people get hung up on his sideburns? They don't bother me. A lot of people say it bothers, but I think he does it just to irritate people more than anything. If you know anything about Don, the more people that tell him that they want him to shave him, the longer and bigger he's going to make him.
Oh, absolutely. I told him, he did our show like one of the first weeks we were on, and I says, what do you do in between that metal show? You're doing Civil War reenactments, and he almost went because I said he looks like a Civil War general.
Yeah, no, hey, listen, man, that's his trademark now. He's gonna trademark or register that thing, and anybody else that grows him like that, he could probably go after. So he's brave enough to do that. God bless him.
God bless, yeah, absolutely, and God bless that metal show. Eddie, before I let you go, could you just do a quick bumper for our show? Would mean the world to me.
Sure.
Just say, hey, this is Eddie Trunk, and you're watching the Wiseguyz show.
Sure.
When you're ready.
Okay.
Go.
Hey, this is Eddie. Oh, one more time.
Okay.
Hey, this is Eddie Trunk, and you're watching the Wiseguyz show.
Thank you very much, Eddie. Thanks a lot for taking this time. If you need anything, you let me know. Fundraisers, any kind of support. I'm going to be watching every Saturday night at 11 o'clock. If I can't watch it, I TiVo it, and I watch it down the road. But that metal show is my favorite show, and I hope you go for another 8 seasons. Hopefully, you guys can come to New York one time so I can actually sit. Before I die, I got to sit in the audience, Eddie. I got to. It's one of my goals.
Well, yeah. Well, we did the show initially out of New York, but we've had to move it just simply because it is.
Most of the bands are in LA, like 99% of them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, but
yeah, I mean, it's about going to where the guests are more than it is about where we live. So
absolutely. But I appreciate Eddie Trunk, that metal show. Eddie, thanks a lot. And like I said, if you need anything, you're a friend of the Wiseguyz show. Anything you want to promote or support, well, you got our support.
Tyler, I appreciate it, man, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.